Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Fawn.
What's up, everybody? This is Herschel Fawn from High School Top 200, and this is the Monday morning meeting. Welcome everybody back. Welcome everybody. If it's your first time, this is High School Top 200 podcast called the Monday morning meeting, where I go over everything that's gone over through the week, some thoughts, some I guess some ideas, just new trains of thoughts to what New Zealand rugby here in New Zealand at this high school level could be and maybe should be at sometimes, because I don't agree with everything they do, but that's what this is. So all of this is about high school rugby, and so if you're new to this, my name is Herschel Fawn. I run High School Top 200. My things are all opinion based. This is all about opinion based so that you can prove me right or prove me wrong by you going out there, supporting all our young players, and getting our young players out there and in the minds of all those that are interested in high school rugby, because you never know who's going to be a superstar, and watching them here from right at the beginning of their careers, where this is like the true beginning of their careers as first team rugby. I like to put a platform out there for those kind of players and for all these boys that just put in that hard work. That's what I'm here for, just to give them some light, give them some shine for all the hard work that they do, and to let them know that they're always appreciated and always thought of. And so that's what High School Top 200 is all about, and I bring that to you every single week, and it's going to be every Monday. And so welcome if you're new. First off, we've got to get through all of this stuff. We got to like, subscribe, share, make a comment not on just on the YouTube page, but also on the Instagram, which is HS Top 200. Also on the Facebook page, which is High School Top 200 as well. Like and subscribe onto the website. Please sacrifice a cup of coffee for me once every month so that you can follow along with all the updated stuff in first team rugby, and to help out, help me out so I can get around the country and go and attend and see as much of these games as possible. This is all just funded by myself. Don't have any backing or anything like that. This is just what I do. It's what I love to do, and so please help me out. Sacrifice one of those. Don't upgrade at McDonald's. Don't get the extra whatever in your coffee, or don't order that other meal, and send that $5 over me and subscribe to the website hstop200.com. So after all of that, I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Melissa. I love you so much. Congratulations on her links group from RDG, which is a dance company up in Auckland that she goes to. And remember, I'm from Hamilton, so she does a lot of traveling, but they came third in their division at HHI, so they will be going to the Worlds in August, and so proud of her, and so proud of her efforts and all her little sacrifices that she had to do. And so links RDG, congratulations. Love you so much, Melissa. And now that they have made it to the Worlds, it looks like I'm forking out some more money to help her to get there. But that's what parents is all about, right? You just do things because you love your child so much that you just want them to have all these experiences. You want them to explore all their talents, and not to waste anything that they have, that you may see some potential or whatever it is. And and I mean, that's exactly why I do this page too. I was thinking about it the other day. Me and my dad were watching some rugby, and then I was thinking to myself, looking at the roster, I was going, man, there's so many boys on there that have been, like there was like the Chiefs, almost every single player on that Chiefs roster was ranked in the High School Top 200. I remember my first year was 2013. And I was looking at it, and then obviously Jura had their team. I was like, Tino's on that team too. So Tino's on that team. And I just thought, okay. Then I looked at the Crusaders, and I looked at the Hurricanes. looked at Otago and I looked at all the boys and like if you've been following me for a while, you know and understand that when I look at these boys, even when they're playing on TV and even when they're playing for the All Blacks, I see them in their school uniforms. I don't really see them as what they are as what they are now, because for me, my superstar status of them all comes from high school. It all comes from me being able to see them play when they're young and when they're at this level and when they are, when they just have the ambition and dream of becoming a professional star, not that they're actually there like they are right now. Like I see them of that. So like I see guys like Damian McKenzie in his Christ uniform, with his black and white stripes. I see guys even like Luke Jacobson. I see him in his Cambridge High School uniform. I see Stephen Perofeta and his, Whanganui Collegiate uniform and the all whites that he wears. I remember him like that. Like I remember Hugh Renton in the red and white of Lindisfarne. And that's kind of how I see all these players. And so I was looking at these rosters and I was thinking, man, at least 80% of every team is filled up of players that were ranked at some point on my high school top 200, which led me on to think that so what, and I was thinking like, so what does that mean? How does that translate? And because I only do it at this level, like I don't follow them through to under 20s or anything like that, I just leave it at high school. And so this really is like sort of a niche kind of level that I'm doing it at. But then it also got me thinking, I was just like, well, I'm like, if 80% of the players know me, and they know who I am, and they know what I've done, because, at some point one of their mates goes, bro, you're on this high school top 200 thing, this top 200 ranking thing. And most guys just call me top 200. And they either call me top 200 or they call me Herschel by my name, or Hirsch or whatever like that. And even all the sirs and all that kind of stuff, they call me that too, which I don't like, but I understand. But I was thinking to myself, if 80% of these players know me, and they've all been ranked at some point, in high school, and their mates and their dads and their mums and their nanas and papas and that, and uncles and aunties all follow me as well. And this is such a niche kind of idea and level to do it at. I'm like one of the most famous names within a Super Rugby changing room. If you were to bring up my name, everyone would be able to say something about me, whether it's good or bad. They'll know who I am and say something about me. But then the general public will have no idea who I am. And I started to think about that. I was thinking, it's funny how, and it's strange how those two different dynamics sort of come together, because you generally think that if a bunch of guys that are admired on screen, and you get to watch a movie Saturday, you cheer for these fellas, they're all your kids' favorite players, and guys practicing moves and stuff like that, you would think that you would know pretty much all the guys that they know. I'm kind of like an inside, like an insider coach. One of the things that guys what the guys do is that people don't really know who the under 20s coach is. But because a bunch of these kids make under 20s, or they make it for 2 years, that guy becomes the first choice guy that you would want to play for professionally, because you have this connection with him because you knew him when you were younger. And the general public don't really know who they are until they get to the top, and then they get, a franchise job, And then I'm kind of like that coach where like all the guys and the players know who I am. Because of what I did for them in high school, I talked about them when I didn't have to. And yeah, this is like a slight flex, and I'm flipping, punching on my ego here, because it's like, I think a lot of people don't understand that the attention that you give a lot of these guys when they were young, when they, I don't know what these guys are going to be. I don't know where they're going to, where they're going to be in their career. I have my own secret predictions of who I think transitions well to professionalism, but for the most part, I don't know. But what I do know is that I know that all these boys in high school who play for that crest on their chest that they have every Saturday, I know that they've put in so much effort to get to where they are, that I'm going to celebrate and put it out there to the rest of the country how good this kid has been and how good he has prepared for this Saturday to be in the position that he's in, to give him the claps and the cheers and the flowers for that moment. I don't praise these kids because I go at one point, man, I hope he's going to be an All Black, and then he can say that he knows me and whatever. It's like, it's got nothing to do with that at all, because I really don't even know. Remember, I've got 200 players that I rank throughout the year that switches and changes all the time. And there's a bunch of players that I did miss out on. There's a bunch of players that I didn't know that were going to make it, or that were in schools that were just so obscure that I just thought, man, I just didn't find them. Their name just didn't reach me, and that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to try and find everyone that's out there. And sometimes I miss out, or sometimes there's boys that I know of that have come from the bench, that never really started a game, that never really had any kind of, people weren't really talking about them, reps weren't really talking about them. And then once they got into university, and once they got into club rugby, and they just had this spirit of whatever, they became something, and they became this different guy that no one knew that they had it in them. They knew that they were a good player, but they didn't. They was like, oh, man, he made it a Super Rugby. Who would have knew? And that's kind of the thoughts that, and those are kind of the stories that, like, I love to hear. I love looking at a guy and go, I'm sure that guy was on this team, and I have to go through all my records. Like, oh yeah, there is him. And I don't really know. I didn't really, he didn't stand out to me at that time, but then all that work that he put in, and then comes to his adulthood in 19, 20, and then all of a sudden he's just this different player. He's just this different guy. And then as I started to sit there, and I was thinking to it, and I was thinking about it, and and thinking, well, what does this mean? Like, if 80% of that team, or that squad, or that roster, like, if the teams were to get together, or if the team was to have a team meeting, and they were just to ask, do you know the name Herschel Fruit? I wonder how many guys would put up their hand. And I wonder how many guys would say positive things about me. And if they're not positive, then that's on me. That I didn't do a good enough job in terms of making these boys feel like they feel appreciated in their high school years, and in the years of their growing, and their, things like that. And like, obviously I want I want a lot of positivity to surround all these players and the things that I say and the way that I report about the team and the way I report about these players. And I want it to be all positive. I want it to be constructive and uplifting. And that's why I don't do put down stories. I don't do negative stuff. No, I mean, because and I've been approached too by people that they go, man, you get me a lot more followers if you just be brutally honest. I was like, yeah, but brutally honest is something that you do for adults. To me, I can be brutally honest to an adult and not have any kind of I don't have any kind of second questions behind it. I was like, you're an adult, man. Like, just handle what I'm saying to you. Well, however you want to accept it, that's up to you. But when you're talking about kids and you're talking about parents, the kids of all these parents that help their kid out so much with everything they got, and being so upfront and raw with what I see, those kids are not mature enough and not confident and strong enough yet to handle that kind of stuff. And that's why I don't do things like that. But if you were to message me privately and then ask me, and especially with parents, if the parents ask for brutal honesty, I give it to them about their kids, but I always make sure that I say, hey, if I'm honest with you, you have to be strong enough to take what I'm saying. And if you want to rebuttal, that's fine. But I'm not going to go back and forth with with an argument. I was just like, this is just what my opinion is, because it is all based on opinion. But I would like to know that what I am doing for kids that have come into these rankings in the past, that it is positive to them, and that they thought it was positive, or even if at the time they're like, oh, Herschel doesn't know what he's talking about, he doesn't, what has he done in rugby, all that kind of stuff that I've heard, every single year. I hear that every single year. But even in the older age, go, oh no, that's not what he was trying to do. He was just trying to promote and trying to talk about, players and schools and coaches and traditions and regions and, I guess different levels of rugby that there can be. There can always be good different levels of rugby. He's trying to get the lion from the small school to join all the other lions to see if they can hack it and see if they can play at that level, and that's what I try and do. And I hope that with the small time, I guess fame that I have in this really niche market of high school first 15 rugby, that the people that have come through the grade and they come through the system of high school top 200 know that I'm doing this out of positivity, and know that I'm trying to help and trying to celebrate as much kids as I can by putting them on my platform, even before money is talked about, even before lifetime opportunities are talked about. I am just here to make sure that you waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for an extra run before everybody else is appreciated, and that's what I want to try and do. And I was because when I was looking at all the names, I thought, wow, that's a lot of players. Over 10 years, this is my 10th year, starting from 2013, when Nelson Asofa Solomona was the first number one player ranked. When there's guys like Atu Molu, who became All Black, like Damian McKenzie became All Black, Kito Ioane became an All Black. All these guys are all on my first rankings list. All the way to now. And seeing how much players that is that have come through. Like even all those guys in the All Blacks that have all made All Blacks now, like Damien McKenzie was the first All Black that was from top 200. And then if you just think about it now, and how many players that is that's come through. I mean, like I said, I don't even really, keep a close eye on how much players that is. But when I was looking at everyone's rosters just this past weekend, I was thinking, man, that's a lot of players that have come through high school top 200. And I was really appreciative of the position that I'm in, that I'm able to talk about these guys even before they became stars. Like even when Samasone Tokuyaho was one of them as well, when I seen him at 15, and just how much he grew as a player. Always kind of knowing that he was going to be a chief player and he would be able to play professional. He looked like he had what it took to be a Super Rugby player. But then now to read about him, even from like articles from overseas saying that this guy is probably the number one hooker in the world, it's such a massive like honor to be able to go, man, I talked about him as a year 11 and followed him through year 12 and year 13 and his senior year, and I was saying, man, seeing guys like, even guys like Dalton Papali'i and Josh Lord, like guys like that, Quintu Paia, all these fellas that I watched when they were all like year 11s, and I get to see them now, like Tupova eyes, like, man, seeing all these guys is like far out. Like, look at Jordie Barrett. I remember Jordie Barrett and thinking, fuck, this big white kid's smashing guys. And I remember, I think it was him where he didn't come to the Chiefs camp because he was just like, oh no, I want to go play cricket. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, I didn't think anything of it. Obviously knowing who he was or like who his brothers were and all that kind of stuff. And to me, he's one of those guys that puts Francis Douglas on the map in a big way, following Conrad Smith and, obviously his brothers and Ricky Riccitelli and like guys like that. But that's kind of like the joy and the love of doing first 15 rugby is kind of where that all comes from. Like, a lot of guys didn't know about schools like John McGlashan until last year, and if guys like myself didn't talk about them so much, people would think, I've never even really heard of them before. Guys I've heard of like, Dunstan High School and then Waimea combined, and people look at schools like Mana College when they were having a good run, and I was thinking, I'm not really sure where they're from. Like, people didn't really hear about, schools like Lindisfarne, and I just like the fact that I get to talk about all these schools and all these players before they become something, and then like not really planning this out to the point where I looked at a roster and then thought to myself, almost everybody in that squad knows who I am or has heard of my name in some capacity in terms of, even before they became professionals. And which is like a really big honor to me that I'm able to do something like this. To be able to watch all these kids before they even, develop into anything really. Like they're all just a clean slate of talent, and you're just like, well, that's just talent right there. Whatever happens with that talent, that's just up to them from here on out. And I've just got so much articles that I've written about kids, even before they became anything, and even before we thought that they were going to become something. It's just like, wow. That's pretty cool. I really, just having that moment and just pondering on it a bit, I was thinking, man, it's a bit different from what I set out to do. It's just one of those things that came across, and it's just different. The other thing I was thinking about, I've enjoyed a lot seeing these teams in this preseason, traveling around. I give it up to the teams that have gone to Taupo to play Hastings boys. I give it up to these teams that have travelled to play Rotorua boys. Even like Westlake boys is another team that has travelled a little bit or to have gone outside of their comfort zone, to play schools. Scots College is another one. Auckland Grammar's done great travelling. St. Bede's was another one that's gone out travelling a little bit in this preseason. And a lot of it has helped me too, because every year I think about who's got the strongest competition, who's got the strongest teams in terms of competition. For the past few years or so, it's been the Super 8, but I think the 1A this year is probably the top competition this year with the top teams. Now, I'm not going to say that every team is going to be competitive, but in terms of like the strength of that top 8 that they have, and I think with the building of some of these other teams, like I see St. Paul's College in Auckland traveling around, really trying to, I guess, get into this rugby kind of, in this rugby scene. Now, I know what they're doing. They're not trying to become rugby players. That's not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to change St. Paul's into a rugby school. I think they're always at the heart of it going to be league players. But they've seen the value in how the NRL, when they sign young players, and this is kind of something for you parents to think about, is that when the NRL signs young players, for the most part, they tell you, stay in New Zealand, stay at your school that you're at. We don't really want you to come over here to Australia. If you're playing first 15, stay in New Zealand and play first 15. They encourage you to do that. They don't necessarily want you coming over to, Australia to play league over there, because they go, why, when you've got a competition that's so good, and the rugby that you're going to be playing is such at a high level, what's the use of coming here? We'll just bring you over for camps that we have in the holidays, and then when you're finished with school, then you can think about coming over. St. Paul's have got onto that, and they've thought, well, and this is what I think that they're doing, what I feel like they're doing, is that they're going to make it in rugby, they're going to make it to the 1A, they're going to have all their boys play at a high level every single week against some of the top talented players in New Zealand, to get their boys prepared for the NRL. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's massive for them. I think the direction, if that's the direction that they're taking, that direction to me is correct. That direction to me is what it should be. If the scouts over there are also encouraging you to play first 15 rugby, the code that they're not even, they're representing, but they go, hey, stay there at rugby, stay there at Hamilton Boys, stay there at St. Kentigern, stay there at Kings, stay there at Palmy, play your years out. We'll bring you over for camps in the middle of the year and do all that kind of stuff. And then when you're finished rugby, come over. Because they see the importance of young players staying around their families, staying around their friends, staying around the comfort zones, making sure that they build themselves and mature and all that kind of stuff. And don't take them out of the environment of security to go live in a country that they don't really know of, to play a game that they only play for one day a week, and they also only train with them 3 or 4 times a week. Because what else do you do with the rest of the hours? Sit and think about what your parents are doing at home. How's my mates doing? Damn, I see them on Instagram. They're freaking TikTok. I see them. It's like, man, look at all my mates doing all that stuff. Because I still think kids should still just be kids. They got their own goals and sacrifices they want, but the sacrifices sometimes don't weigh up to the opportunity if you do not know where that opportunity is taking you. And the way that I see it is, it's like, NRL has done great with making sure that boys stay home. If the family, however, moves over, it's a different story. But if you're just sending one kid out and going, oh, we want you, we want him to go to school over there and be around all league players, and they're like, and I've talked to scouts from the NRL, and they go, I don't know why parents do this. They tell me all the time, they go, I don't know why they're doing this. But they've asked us if he can move over there. And we're just like, well, okay, that's fine. We don't say no. But they go, well, if you're playing for that team, why wouldn't you just stay there? The trainings in New Zealand are always really good. Most high schools in New Zealand have professional setups that are academy level setups. They get great nutrition advice. They get great training advice. They get really hard games and really competitive competitions that they're in. Why would we move them over? St. Paul's are at that position where they're going, why would we be stuck in the 1B when we can actually coach our boys to be to play rugby, have rugby instincts, but also have that train of thought of like, oh no, this is just a stepping stone for us. It's just a stepping stone. We're not trying to make the Blues. If we do, it's fine. Look at Seal making New Zealand Barbarians, and to me, he's probably one of the best wingers that we have this year. Him and Kalis will probably be wingers again, depending on what they want to do with Kalis as well. Putoko from Hamilton Boys, but Seal Cully's probably one of the best wingers that we have, and coming from St. Paul's, because I already know that he's with the Warriors, it's like, yeah, just take that opportunity, make New Zealand Barbarians, or if you're able to make New Zealand secondary schools and still go back to league, it's like, cool. That's not to say that they're not going to be approached by the Blues, because 100% if I was in the Blues, I'd be like, oh, I'm still going to approach them if you guys will let me talk to them. I'm still going to make my pitch, but I know that these are league boys. But that's what you should be doing, I guess. That's the direction that when I was kind of paying attention to what they were doing 3 years ago, and I was thinking, well, these guys are actually doing really good for a league team. And I know it's a 1B, but the 1B has really good individual players that are great leaders, and they seem to be doing good against these individual players. And then I saw what they did the last 2 years, and especially last year, and I was thinking, well, St. Paul's was not a St. Paul's was a 1A school last year. The 1A competition last year should have been a bit bigger. I understand why it's small, why they only have their 14 teams, but I thought it should have been a bit bigger. St. Paul's should have been one of those teams that went there too. And I think St. Paul's and Liston, I think, are the ones that play for promotion relegation, I think. I've got to double check on that. But if St. Paul's can make it into the 1A, stay in the 1A, that's going to be a huge lift for them in their program. That's also going to be a huge lift for the 1A as well, because I actually think that St. Paul's can be a team that can be a solid 1A team that is not going to struggle. I actually think that they are going to be a solid team that can be top 4 bound, as well as maybe land around 11, 12 sometimes. They will be within that range of ranking, and that is such a really good position to be in, because being in the 1A, I mean, like, if you think about it, you got Sacred Heart, St. Kentigern's, Auckland Grammar, Kings, Mags, Kelston, St. Peter's, and that's already like De La Salle, that's 8 teams already. And those 8 teams usually are considered in the top 25 every single year. Now, if you can fall between 4 and 9 with those kind of teams, you're like, oh, we're in a great composition. We're in a great position in competition. Dilworth is also working their way as well as a rugby program too. That they've gotten so much better at keeping consistent in a higher position. Like, they've gone down south. They were like a quad down south with Christ College, Marlborough boys, and also Nelson College second 15. Not the first 15, but the second 15. And Dilworth should be doing stuff like this. They should be getting out there and testing their boys into these different styles and stuff like that. So the Auckland region, to me, with the travelling of St. Kentigern's, winning quad down there, the Presbyterian quad against Lindisfarne, Scots College, and St. Andrews, these boys in Auckland getting out to these other parts of the country and showing what they can do, but also at the same time seeing what everybody else does too. Auckland Grammar going on this really nice run of beating Rotorua boys, beating Christchurch boys, beating Otago boys, and then just falling to Southland boys, which is like one of those things where you're like, yeah, they probably ran out of energy, and they ran out of older boys and all the niggling injuries that you're like, well, hold on, this is still preseason. We do kind of want to win every game, but at the same time, we don't want to stress anybody out and stress these little niggling injuries. Just like, yeah, we'll just play some different players. And then we get all these young boys that get to take the field as well, and you're going, and these young boys going, this is the memory that I have of first 15 rugby. I was told that there was a year 10 in Auckland Grammar that played against Southland boys, and that was his first taste of like, oh, this is what top-rated rugby is about when you're playing schools like Southland boys. That's his memory straight away. And all these things, and to me, looking at a competition like the 1A, and why I feel that they are the best competition this year and probably the strongest competition, is because of the fact that a lot of them have actually been a lot more active in going out and playing these other teams from around the country. I still think a Catholic camp would be great. I still think that. I still think getting as much Catholic schools together, all the big ones, even all the smaller Catholic schools, and making them all come together, making them all train together, getting all these boys to meet each other from different parts of the country, and guys that they've read about, and guys that they've seen on high school top 200 and stuff like that, and seeing where they've been ranked before, and be like, oh, this is that guy. This is the guy I need to match up with. He's in my position too. It's just like, okay, this is what this is the level that I should be playing at as well. And schools and boys to be seeing each other in that light, be like, oh yeah, I've read about you, I've seen you before, I've seen where you ranked, things like that. And so for me this year, probably the 1A is probably the strongest competition for me this year. The second one will probably be the Super 8. The third one to me is the Miles Toyota Cup. But again, close behind is the CNI competition. The Miles Toyota Cup, and that's the one in Christchurch. For those that don't know, that's the Christchurch one. They have similar problems that the CNI have in terms of like their long travels. In the Miles Toyota Cup, that travel schedule does actually matter. It really does take something, like you really do have to plan that kind of stuff, because if you have too many away games, like if you're in Christchurch, like if you're in Nelson, or if you're Nelson, Marlborough or Waimea, and then you're like, oh then we have to go down, to Timaru, then we come back and then we have to go to Christchurch again, and then we have to go back and then we play a home game, then we have to travel again. Those 4 weeks in a row can really tear apart your team in terms of fatigue and recovery and things like that. And I'm glad that like teams are now speaking about recovery, speaking about taking care of your body and making sure that you're doing your ice baths properly, you're getting inflammation down, you're getting all that kind of stuff taken care of, making sure you know how to take care of your own injuries and what your body reacts to well, because like things like that, and in terms of competitions like the Miles Toyota Cup as well as the CNI competitions, that travel can be really, really hard on the boys. And remember that they're still trying to study, they're still trying to do assignments, they're still trying to get enough sleep, they still want to hang out with their mates and do things with their families, but then they still have trainings, and then they have another game where they have to travel to a different part of the country. And like all that kind of stuff like matters. And so like even when I take into consideration all these kind of things in terms of like travel and how far you travel, I always look at things as well as like I've got your schedule, but at the same time I've also got your traditional schedule, where you will play a game and you go, oh no, we got a traditional on Wednesday, but we have to travel, and then we have to come back, and then we might have to travel again. Like things like that as well. We used to do that too from here in Hamilton. Like we would play our competition here in Hamilton. We used to play in this one called the Big 8, and we used to have Wesley in there, and like St. Paul's was in there with Western Heights, Trident, a school called Trident, which was in Whakatane, and that we used to play like Matamata, and Wesley was part of it too. But like we used to go to Te Aute, was like part of our tradition too, and we used to play this other school called Tipene, which is St. Stephen's College up in Auckland, which was a big time Māori school, which always had a strong tradition of rugby players. And that was also part of the travelling schedule part, where we were just like, oh, okay, well, we have to travel up there, we have to come back, and we have to go to Hastings, come back, and go to, here and there, and like things like that. So like, all those things matter. All those things matter in those kind of situations where I do look at that kind of stuff. And so, another thing that I like is the fact that, in the North Harbour competition, that you have a team like Whangarei Boys and Manurewa, where boys from over the shore, they get to experience like different kinds of travel as well. And I like the fact that Westlake Boys go to Tauranga Boys as well as New Plymouth Boys, where they have their traditional exchanges. I wish a lot more teams from North Harbour would do that. I wish Massey would have more of that. I wish, Rosmini would have more of that, or Takapuna, or, Rangitoto. I wish those schools would get out there and ask teams, it's like, hey, what do you guys think of an exchange? Just to get outside of the area and to find out what everyone's about. I think that's where speaking of teams getting out, that's where I think like competitions like rugby by the beach is important. And I saw them, and I shared one of their posts yesterday where they're trying to get interest from teams. If you are a team that's looking to play, and this is around the time top 4 kind of time, and so like if you want one more rugby spirit and, being able to be around different teams, sign up for that Rugby by the Beach, and make sure you email them, because it's such a good tournament. It's such a good competition. It's such a good way for guys to shut down the year and finish the year off, especially for those year 13s who have their last year. And then you're just like, well, what can we do? It's like, maybe we should just go end it by the beach. Have their last games there, have a proper send-off for your boys, and then, finish the year with a strong competition. And to me, that competition is one that I feel like is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I like the level that they're at right now, where they have those schools that are not quite top 25 ranked schools. They're more around the schools that are ranked from, about 75, between 75 and 50. And some of those are creeping into the top 50, which is great. Because I like schools like Mount Maunganui College. I like schools like Papamoa, Hauraki, Mairangi College is like another one. All these kind of schools within that range, I think should be at those tournaments. But I also think Wakatupu should probably come up to it. Dunstan, South Otago High School should probably come up to it. I think schools like Awatea College from Wellington and Upper Hutt College should probably come up to that too. I think Hawera should hurry up and come over and join that competition as well. Hawera High School is another one. I think it would be great if St. John's College and Hastings jumped into that competition too, and then giving boys a last good hit out. I wish a team like Kaitaia or Kaitaia College or maybe Kirikiri come down and join that competition. And I know it's a long way, and I know it's a big sacrifice, but from what I see and how much talent all these schools have, I feel like that's a good competition to be in, where everyone's at that same level. Everyone's at that same level, and it's not too, you're not going to have a competition like that and then have, like St. Pat's Silverstream show up. You're like, oh, hold on. It's like it's too much of a jump. Not right now, but all the teams that are going now are the good ones. But you don't want Silverstream showing up, or you don't want to like, what the hell is Nelson College doing here? Or it's like, why is King's High School at this competition? It's like, that's way too big for us. But everyone that was at that tournament just last year's one, Rototuna was another one that was there as well with Matamata, and I thought, man, all these teams are around that same level. And so if you're thinking about something like that, if you're thinking about a competition that you want to finish the year on, and a tournament that you want to finish the year on, go to that one. Rugby by the Beach, and I don't even know those guys. I'm just saying it because I think it's a great idea. Whether you do one, somewhere else, is just let me know and I'll promote that one too, because I think around top 4 time, and there's top 4 is the only thing that's going on at the time. The other one is under 15s, and apart from that, that's the only rugby that's going on. So to me, if the top 4 is going on, you're like, cool, that's the top 4, whatever. We're going to have our own tournament at this time, finish off our boys on a high and all that kind of stuff, and finish up the year strong from there. Whatever the turnout is like, yeah, let's just finish as a team, finish in a great place, like playing in a place like Papamoa and down in the Bay of Plenty. I was thinking, yeah, why not? Good competition, pretty good setup from what I saw last year, and yeah, so have a look at that. Should still be on my Facebook page if you scroll through. But yeah, have a look at that tournament. Speaking about the under 15s, I think should I talk about under 15s or later? Because under 15s is different, I still think the under 15 national tournament should be a under 15s nationals. It shouldn't be a fixed tournament with fixed teams. King's College last year, I think, was to me, was probably the best under 15s last year. Christchurch boys really wanted to play them. I have a feeling that King's College probably wanted to play them too. Just to get this, this definite of like knowing that you're the best kind of thing, So, but I actually feel like if there was a way to do it, like I would do it too. If there was a way to do it and go, if I do the rankings for this, and you guys take the rankings, and then that's the national championship, and either have like what the NCAA do with basketball is having 2 tournaments, and then you have one with like either the top 32, 36, however you want it, teams, then have another one with like the 37 to like 75 or something like that, however you want to do it, have just 2 of them running, and so that all the boys have like a national tournament to go to at under 15s, and under 15s is like the first step to your rugby trips and to getting to go on the bus on a long trip just to play rugby, which is like a headache for adults because you have to organise and get the funding and all that kind of stuff. But for a boy and for a kid to hang out with all his mates on a bus trip, thinking that you're going to get into all these shenanigans or whatever, it's a pretty cool feeling. But for me, it's more about making sure the national competition is as close to what a national championship competition should be, a tournament should be. And the way that it is done now, because I think it's over here in Hamilton this year, at Hamilton Boys, to me, I just don't feel good about the way that it is structured, this national side is structured, because there's teams that go to the one, like Sacred Heart don't go to an under 15s nationals, and they're always a good under 15 side. Kelston Boys and St. Peter's go down to the Hurricanes one, which is so good. They add a lot to that Hurricanes one, which is at Silverstream. Then there's the one down south as well that they have, and there's teams that should have probably, like one year there was King's High School. They should have been probably, the under 15 national team, championship team. If there was a tournament, they'd look like they were one of the stronger ones. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there should be some kind of revision for that. Like I know that, it's not a big deal to New Zealand rugby, but I think to the boys it is. I think to the game it is a big deal. I think to the fans it is a big deal. I think to the schools being, like if there was a definite, this is the under 15 national a national tournament, and then being able to bring home that title to their school. And remember, at under 15s, players are not actually recruited until like under 15s. Like first 15s won't really recruit heavily until they see them in like an under 15 level and go, oh shoot, that guy is actually really good, let's bring him over. So like all these under 15s that will be really good, they will come from schools that are not big schools. So you won't always you'll have more teams that are not considered big rugby schools show up at this tournament. They'll be ranked a lot more. And like I know all of you guys are thinking now, it's just like, so they're just going to go to this national tournament site and then the big schools are going to take them. It's like, well, they could not go to a national championship under 15 tournament and still get recruited, because that's just what's going to happen. Maybe think about it as like, well, maybe he's going to get recruited to a school that we actually really want to go to, not just one that's in the area. Because that's usually what happens, is that you get recruited to schools that are just the big ones in your area. If you went to a national champion, like a national tournament, under 15 tournament, and you live in somewhere like, Taranaki or Hawke's Bay or, in Gisborne and whatever, you could be recruited by a team that's from down south. And you might go, yeah, I've always thought about going down there. At least you have more options, I guess. But reality is that if your son's really good at rugby, he's probably most likely going to be recruited. And obviously recruiting is an argument that we have all the time. It's just to me, it's just it's up to that boy and his mum and dad, or his caregivers, or whoever it is. It's they're the ones that make the decision. It's got nothing to do with the school that's offering. The school just makes an offer. That's all it is. They don't have to take it. But I think a national tournament should be something that should be talked about. I wish it was more talked about by, the higher ups, but that's just what we have right now. But anyway, that's High School Top 200 for today. I didn't think it was going to be this long. But anyways, this is High School Top 200. This is the Monday morning meeting. Thank you very much for coming. Please subscribe to hstop200.com. Subscribe, $5 a month. Make sure you go out there and see your local rugby high schools play. Have a look at the rankings. Rankings will be out soon, a couple of weeks. And later, ball.